The last signal from the deep-sea research drone Hades 7 was received 3 months ago. Officially, the $250 million apparatus was lost as a result of unforeseen technical malfunctions at extreme depths. But what if I told you that this is a lie? That the last frames the drone managed to transmit before its disappearance were deliberately hidden from the public? Frames that not only challenge our understanding of life on Earth, but also evoke a primal terror. Today, for the first time, we will reveal what the drone actually filmed in the deepest part of the ocean. And believe me, what you are about to see will make you look at the dark waters differently. Hello and welcome to the channel. We live in an era where telescopes peer into other galaxies and Mars rovers traverse the vastness of the red planet. It seems as though there are no uncharted territories left on Earth itself, but that's not true. The ocean, that is the real final mystery. We have studied its surface, but its depths remain more mysterious and alien than the far side of the moon. It was precisely to shed light on this eternal darkness that the Hades 7 was created, the most advanced autonomous drone in human history. And its mission into the Challenger Deep, the deepest point in the Mariana Trench, was supposed to be a triumph of science. Instead, it became a nightmare. To join us on this investigation and be the first to learn about such mysteries, be sure to subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell. You won't want to miss what we're about to show you. And so, Hades 7 begins its journey. The first 200 meters are the sunlit zone. Here, familiar life thrives: fish, dolphins, sunlight. But beyond that begins the twilight zone, where only 1% of light penetrates. Here, at depths of up to 1,000 meters, the pressure increases 100-fold. This is a world of giant squids and bizarre fish that have already adapted to the eternal gloom. The drone passes this milestone without issue. Its titanium hull is designed to withstand unimaginable pressures. All systems are nominal. The team at Mission Control exchanges encouraging comments. No one yet knows that this dive is a one-way ticket. The 1,000-meter mark. In oceanography, it is known as the bathyal zone, or the zone of eternal darkness. Here, the world as we know it ends. The last stray photon of sunlight was absorbed hundreds of meters ago. Now, all around is only perfect, primordial blackness, undisturbed for millions of years. The pressure here reaches 100 atmospheres and continues to increase with every meter. This is enough not just to crush, but to compress a modern tank into a formless metal briquette. The water temperature drops to near freezing, approaching the icy breath of space. Under such conditions, by all laws of logic, life should not exist. But it doesn't just exist, it thrives here, having taken forms that could only be born in the wildest fantasies or the most terrifying nightmares. Since sunlight does not reach here, life has created its own. This is the world of bioluminescence, a cold, living firework in a hostile void. The cameras of Hades 7 capture this silent light show. Ghostly lights flash on and off, painting intricate patterns in the dark. But these are not chaotic flashes. This is a language. It is a method of hunting, defense, and communication in a world of perpetual night. An anglerfish, famous for its lure, floats by. Its glowing appendage, the esca, dangles in the darkness like a treacherous lantern. For a small fish, it's a promise of food, but in reality, it's a deadly bait leading straight into a mouth of needle-like teeth. Then a school of glowing squid darts past, flashing in unison as if transmitting some important message. The cameras capture a predatory viperfish whose fangs are so large they don't fit in its mouth, and they too glow, creating a gruesome, alluring illusion. This is a silent metropolis where the bodies of its inhabitants serve as neon signs. The drone continues its relentless descent. 4,000 meters, 6,000 meters. It enters the abyssal zone. The word abyssal itself comes from the Greek abyssos, meaning bottomless, and the name is fitting. The pressure here exceeds 600 atmospheres. The creatures become fewer, but they also become larger and much, much stranger. The fast and bright carnival of the bathyal zone gives way to a slow and majestic parade of monsters. The cameras snatched living fossils from the darkness, giant isopods. These armored crustaceans resembling alien armadillos the size of a football crawl slowly along the bottom in search of carrion that has fallen from the upper layers of the ocean. Their ancestors saw the dinosaurs. Ghostly, almost completely transparent sea cucumbers, nicknamed sea pigs for their clumsy appearance and tentacle-like legs, drift by. They hover in the water column like lost dirigibles, sifting through the silt. In the beam of the searchlight, the shadow of a goblin shark flickers, a living nightmare with extendable jaws capable of shooting forward to snap prey. All systems of the Hades 7 are operating nominally. The titanium composite hull withstands the monstrous pressure. Communication with mission control is stable. The mission is proceeding perfectly, too perfectly. And it is at this very moment, when the team on the surface was ready to congratulate each other on passing another milestone, that the hydrophones of the drone begin to pick up something strange, something that shouldn't be here. Against the background of the usual acoustic landscape, the distant clicks of crustaceans and the hum of the currents, a new sound emerges. A low, guttural, vibrating hum. It doesn't resemble the sound of whales or geological activity. It has a structure, a rhythm, as if in the darkness, at an unimaginable distance, a giant machine is at work, or something colossal is breathing. The first reaction of the engineers at the center is equipment failure. They run diagnostics on the hydrophones, but the systems are normal. The sound is real. It becomes more and more distinct as Hades 7 descends deeper. The team does not yet know that this sound is not just an anomaly, it's an invitation to a place from which no one has ever returned. At a depth of 8,200 meters, in the icy, compressed darkness of the Hadal zone, the world of sound transformed. Until this moment, the hydrophones of the research drone Hades 7 had captured the familiar acoustic background of the abyss, the rare, dry crackle of crustaceans akin to static, and the barely discernible hum of the Earth's crustal seismic activity. Occasionally, fading, distorted beyond recognition echoes of whale songs would pierce the water column, ghosts of sound that had traveled for tens of kilometers from the upper, more lively layers of the ocean. But now, all that was drowned out by something new. It wasn't just a note, but a deep, visceral vibration that seemed to penetrate the titanium hull of the drone itself. A low-frequency, pulsing hum on the very edge of infrasound. It was felt as much as it was heard, a sensation that resonated through the entire apparatus. In mission control on the surface, analysts, peering at oscilloscope screens, initially attributed the anomaly to the most obvious causes. Perhaps it was resonance, caused by the drone's own systems operating under extreme pressure, or interference from an unknown geological process. For instance, a gas escape from a tectonic fault, or the slow movement of magma deep beneath the ocean floor. Self-diagnostic protocols were immediately initiated. The systems of Hades 7 responded flawlessly. No hardware errors, no malfunctions. Attention then shifted to geology. However, the hypothesis of natural origin quickly crumbled. The sound had one shocking, unnatural characteristic: its rhythm. It was perfect. The pulsations followed one another with a mathematically precise periodicity. An inhale, a long rising vibration, a pause, an exhale, a fading low rumble, and again. Geology is chaotic. It doesn't follow a schedule. This sound, however, was monotonous, orderly, deliberate. It did not sound like the noise of nature. It sounded like the noise of a function. A tense silence fell over the sterile environment of Mission Control. On the screens before the mission's lead specialists, this anomalous pulse throbbed and two horrifyingly plausible conjectures hung in the air. The first was biological. It was breathing. The breath of something unimaginably huge, alive, whose metabolism was so slow and colossal that each of its breaths lasted several tens of seconds. A creature for which a pressure of 800 atmospheres was the norm and eternal darkness its natural habitat. The second conjecture was even more disturbing. It was a mechanism, a machine, an engine operating where there should be nothing but silt, pressure, and perpetual cold. Something built and launched by an unknown party at an unknown time, functioning in the most hostile environment for technology on the planet. Scientific curiosity overrode protocol and caution. This sound was the greatest mystery oceanography had ever encountered. It could not be left unanswered. After a brief, tense meeting, a decision was made. The command given to the drone was short and clear. Adjust course, cease vertical descent, and move horizontally, using the anomalous sound as an acoustic beacon. This was the first major deviation from the approved mission plan, a step off the beaten path directly into the heart of the inexplicable phenomenon. It was a fatal mistake. The 10,994-meter mark, the bottom. The moment the altimeter froze was not accompanied by a jolt or the sound of impact. The Hades 7 drone, having cut its vertical thrusters, hovered smoothly a meter above the surface, its powerful searchlights piercing the abyssal gloom for the first time in its 11-kilometer fall and striking solid ground. This was the bottom of the world. The Challenger Deep, the deepest point on planet Earth, had received an envoy from the surface. Inside Mission Control, a tense, triumphant silence descended. Dozens of people, holding their breath, watched the transmitted images. Around the drone was an absolute, unimaginable void, disturbed only by that same low-frequency pulsating hum, which had now become not just an anomaly on an oscilloscope, but a physically palpable vibration. It permeated everything, as if the water and the sediment themselves were resonating in time with this gargantuan, invisible heart. The pressure here reached its apex, 1,100 atmospheres. This figure, dry and academic on paper, in reality represented a force capable of turning steel and stone to dust. A mass of 1.1 tons pressed down on every square centimeter of the Hades 7's hull. It was equivalent to placing the weight of 50 giant passenger jets on a thumbnail. The drone, a marvel of engineering, held, but every sensor on its body screamed of the monstrous, unceasing strain. The beam of the searchlight, like a surgeon's scalpel, began to methodically dissect the darkness, sweeping across the seabed. The surface was exactly as scientists had predicted, a perfectly flat, almost smooth canvas of the finest diatomaceous ooze. This was a graveyard of epochs, layer upon layer of compressed remains of microscopic life, cosmic dust, and everything that had ever died in the ocean's depths and settled here over millions of years. A serene, untouched landscape of absolute peace. And that is precisely why what the camera captured in the third minute of its survey was so shocking. On the perfectly flat canvas of ooze, there were furrows. These were not just random indentations. They were two deep, perfectly parallel trenches, as if something colossal, heavy, and solid had recently been dragged across the bottom. Their edges were too clean, too straight for a natural geological formation, which would have been blurred and chaotic. They resembled the trail of a giant plow or sled that had cut through the ancient ooze, exposing denser, darker layers beneath. The trenches were so wide that the drone could easily fit inside one of them. They stretched in a straight line into the impenetrable darkness beyond the reach of the searchlights. No known underwater current, landslide, or animal could have left such a mark. This was evidence of purposeful mechanical movement. The team at Mission Control, forgetting the original mission plan, made the only possible decision. The drone was commanded to move along one of the furrows.
As it advanced, the monotonous pulsating hum they had been tracking for the past few hours began to grow relentlessly louder. The vibration became so strong that the image from the cameras started to tremble slightly. The drone was no longer just hearing the anomaly, it was approaching its epicenter. It moved along the colossal track for about 7 minutes, and the hum turned into a low, all-consuming roar. And then, in the cone of light snatching a section of the seabed from the darkness, something appeared that silenced even the boldest speculations. Ahead, blocking the trench, loomed something that was neither rock nor geological formation. It was something that had no right to exist here, something that made the blood run cold in the veins of everyone watching the screens thousands of kilometers away. Ahead, at the very edge of the cone of light, where the powerful beams of the Hades 7 struggled to push back the eternal darkness, a contour began to take shape. This was not another rock ridge or a product of volcanic activity. Its geometry was too alien, too deliberate. Before the drone lay something that simultaneously resembled a living organism and the abandoned architecture of an unknown civilization. The object was covered in enormous overlapping plates like the carapace of a gargantuan prehistoric creature. The plates were dark, almost black, with a matte sheen like basalt, but their arrangement bore traces of a grim, inhuman symmetry. Between these giant segments of armor, deep fissures were visible, and it was there that the most disturbing feature was hidden. Within these crevices, a pale, almost milky, translucent flesh could be seen. And in its depths, like veins or nerve ganglia, a cold, blue-green bioluminescent light pulsed dimly and slowly. The pulsation of the light perfectly matched the rhythm that the drone's hydrophones had been tracking for the past few hours. This was not the hum of a mechanism. This was a heartbeat. The scale of this creature or structure was terrifying. The camera of the Hades 7, for all its wide-angle capability, could only capture a tiny fragment, the slope of what appeared to be a giant hill or an underwater mountain range. But preliminary sonar calculations, operating at the limit of their capacity, suggested a structure that stretched for at least half a kilometer into the impenetrable darkness. The car-sized drone was but a speck of dust next to this leviathan. It was at this very moment, as the operators in mission control, frozen by what they saw, tried to figure out what to do next, that the second shocking event occurred. The all-pervading low-frequency hum that had been the background of the mission for the last few hours, abruptly, without fading, ceased. An absolute, deafening, unnatural silence fell. The absence of sound was more terrifying than the sound itself. It meant one thing. The creature, if it was a creature, was no longer passive. It had noticed the intrusion. And then, the object began to move. Slowly, unhurriedly, with the ponderous grace of an ancient mechanism, one of the giant black plates, the size of a house, began to rise. With the quiet grinding sound that the hydrophones picked up, it detached from the pale flesh, revealing what lay beneath. It resembled no eye of any known creature, but its function was unmistakable. A complex, multi-layered structure consisting of hundreds of shimmering, facet-like lenses assembled into a huge concave disc. In the very center of this disc gaped a bottomless black void that did not reflect the searchlight's beam. This giant, intricately designed sensor turned in the water column, focused on the tiny source of light and heat that was the Hades 7, and froze. The drone had been detected. And then the very thing that was cut from all official reports and became the subject of secret investigations happens. From the impenetrable darkness to the side of the main body, with an incredible, impossible speed for such depths, something else rushed towards the drone. It was not the slow-moving, giant creature. It was a thin, swift appendage, like a biological spear, like the crack of a whip. It shot out of the gloom directly at the Hades 7. For a single instant, it entered the camera's light.
That was the last frame transmitted. A blurry fragment of something with a leathery, bumpy texture and an unnatural, jointed curve, ending in a sharp, chitinous point. A fraction of a second after that frame was sent, the drone's telemetry exploded into chaos. All sensors simultaneously screamed disaster. Dozens of red warnings flooded the screens at mission control. Critical hull damage, multiple breaches, decompression, power loss. The frozen image of the appendage on the main screen was replaced by white noise. Then, complete blackness. The signal from Hades 7 was lost forever. So what did the drone film? There are several theories. Skeptics would say it was a rare geological formation and an equipment malfunction. But the rhythmic hum, the straight furrows, and most importantly, the final frames suggest otherwise. Perhaps on the floor of the Mariana Trench, under conditions of monstrous pressure and complete isolation, evolution took a completely different path. We encountered not just a new species, but a life form so ancient and alien that our minds refuse to accept it. A creature for which a depth of 11 kilometers is not a deadly trap, but its native home. Or perhaps it is something even more frightening, something that is not a product of Earth's evolution. What if the deepest points of the ocean are not just the bottom, but something else? A place where something that does not want to be found is hiding. Officially, Hades 7 is dead, but its final seconds of life have given us a terrible knowledge. We are not the masters of this planet. We live only on its thin, sun-drenched crust, and the true masters of the depths are simply waiting in the dark. What do you think about this? Was it a giant, ancient creature, an unknown technology, or something else entirely? Write your theories in the comments. I would be very interested to read them. Don't forget to leave a like if this video made you think, and share it with your friends. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next investigations.